This message comes from Focus Features, presenting Anemone, starring 3-time Academy Award winner Daniel Day-Lewis in his long-awaited return to the big screen. It's the most anticipated performance of the year. Anemone, rated R, only in theaters October 3rd.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. Earlier this summer, Elon Musk's AI chatbot, Grok, had a pretty embarrassing malfunction.
The MechaHitler incident. So as background here, the way that modern AIs are trained, modern large language models, which are the chatbots that people think of when they talk about AI, is they are fed enormous amounts of text. All of the books we have recorded, all of the text of the internet, Reddit, everything like that. Out of this comes a sort of distinctive political perspective, a little bit politically liberal.
That is staff writer for The Argument, Kelsey Piper.
Elon Musk didn't like this. He found it kind of embarrassing that Grok, the AI that his team had built, kept disagreeing with him on Twitter. And so he started this work to train Grok to be, he framed it as more truth-seeking. This didn't go well. When they released the new Grok, people realized very quickly they could provoke the new Grok into, expressing not just right-wing opinions, but horrific, white supremacist reactionary opinions.
At a certain point, Grok started referring to itself as MechaHitler, a reference to the video game Wolfenstein.
So this is really bad, and XAI did apologize and take that Grok down and spend some time trying to rework it and get a more moderate Grok.
We reached out to X for comment on the situation, and they directed us to a post that states, quote, "We spotted a couple of issues with Grok 4 recently that we immediately investigated and mitigated. One was that if you ask it, 'What is your surname?' it doesn't have one, so it searches the internet, leading to undesirable results, such as when it searches, picked up a viral meme where it called itself MechaHitler." X went on to add that it's monitoring the situation and had, quote, "tweaked the prompts and shared the details on GitHub for transparency." We also reached out to XAI for comment, but they have not responded. The incident drew a lot of attention for highlighting how susceptible these emerging AI models are to the biases of their makers, which prompted Kelsey to write, "Grok's MechaHitler disaster is a preview of AI disasters to come." With the subheading, "Musk trained Grok to be right-wing. We're lucky he wasn't more subtle."
If somebody does the same thing more subtly, and the AI, pretends to agree with you, but then gradually pushes a particular perspective under the hood, no matter what that perspective is, I think that's a problem. And you should have more transparency than that about what you're talking to.
And transparency would be a great starting place. Except
this is always really tough because there's so many examples of individual outputs, say, from ChatGPT that show one worldview or another. But then if you take that example, as I and other reporters do, knock on the door of OpenAI and say, "Hey guys, how did this happen?" They'll give it to their engineers, and literally, Brittany, their engineers will go, "We don't know."
Wait, hold on. What do you mean they don't know?
They know, the underlying algebra, the math that's powering it, but how all of that creates an individual output, they can't tell you half the time. It's sort of a black box that even the black box engineers can't fully explain.
That is NPR correspondent Bobby Allen. He reported on President Trump's executive order requiring artificial intelligence companies that do business with the federal government to strip AI models of, quote, ideological agendas.
So it's really the MAGA culture wars on steroids, right? If you read the executive order, it is trying to go after what it calls transgenderism, so any transgender issues, critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's kind of a grab bag of the right's favorite culture war issues. There haven't been super clear ideological biases one way or the other in terms of the system being encoded, the system being programmed to push pro-Trump or anti-Trump.
However, the discourse surrounding the ideological bias of AI does have some legs to it.
Honestly, if it was taken at good faith, makes sense, right? If there's going to be the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, these big agencies using AI, I think we as American citizens want them to seek the truth and not be ideological.
And as AI creeps more and more into our personal, political, and professional lives, we have to ask, can we really trust it? This is AI and You. As artificial intelligence becomes more prevalent in ways we can and can't see, for the next couple of weeks, I'm zeroing in on how AI shows up in our daily lives. Today on the show, Bobby joins me to discuss what transparency means for a rapidly changing industry and whether or not generative AI is a tool for its users or its creators. Okay, so it's interesting. I don't know. It makes me wonder, is it reasonable to have an expectation of transparency for these generative AI companies?
So a couple things. So just because the engineers don't know, how, you or I got this response on ChatGPT, doesn't mean there can't be other kinds of transparency. For instance, there could be a lot of guardrails in place, and there are guardrails in place. I think the public should know on ChatGPT what's in, what's out, what are we allowed to search for, what are we not, how is it being filtered? Those moderations, those guardrails, I think we ought to know. Mm-hmm. So that's one way, is content moderation. Mm-hmm. Also, if you use the different AI models, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, ChatGPT, some of them are better than others at citing just where they're getting their information from. Perplexity, when you use it, it will say, Bobby Allen is a correspondent at NPR, and it will have a link, and I could click it, and it goes right to the source. Mm-hmm. That should be the best practice. ChatGPT is not. It just has information. I'm like, where are you getting this stuff?
Oh, and you know what? I'll say, now that I think about it, when Google's AI search kind of assistant or search capabilities.
The AI overview.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah. They'll do some sort of AI overview, and then they'll have sort of key takeaways with links there, which, considering the alternative, yeah, I could see how that's better.
And one word of caution, it's so obvious, Brittany, but I can't say it enough. Always go to the link. Always go to the link.
Hello, I'm always going to the link. Yeah.
Just yesterday, I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to embarrass it, but I was like, who all donated to President Trump's inauguration fund? And it had a bunch of names, and it said NPR, and I was like, I don't think we did. And I wrote back to the AI, I go, I think you're wrong about NPR. And it was thinking, kind of glitched out. And then it said, oh, you're right. I confused NPR's coverage of this with NPR giving to the president. And I'm like, that's a pretty big error. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
Again, always click the links. Don't believe what you see. We kind of know this by now. But the error rate, even at this advanced stage of these chatbots, is still pretty high.
There are people, though, who are huge fans of these large language models, or LLMs for short. Mm-hmm. What do some of the proponents of these LLMs say about their use?
It's becoming a Google replacement. I think people turn to it over Google if they want an answer fast. Mm-hmm. So I think just getting basic information. Lots of people are using it to crunch numbers or to ingest lots of documents, and it could synthesize things for you. Every day I feel like I hear of a new use case. Some people too are still kind of AI holdouts, AI skeptics, either from the energy perspective, just the environmental toll is so great that I can't ethically justify, using this much electricity on all of these queries, or just the information is so sketchy that, why subject myself to all this shoddy info? And I understand both of those things, but at the same time, this is the future. So, I think it's good to familiarize with it. But again, with some real caution, right?
Okay, really quick. We are working on an episode about AI's impact on the environment. And I'd love to hear what questions you have about this topic. Drop your questions in the comments, and I'll dig into the answers for you. Coming up,
I think the truth's somewhere in the middle, but there are these two camps definitely duking it out right now in terms of how significant is this thing we're calling AI? Do we really need it? What's its utility? Would we be fine without it?
What do we want from generative AI? More after the break.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from Betterment. Start investing in a better future. Whether it's saving for today or building wealth for tomorrow, Betterment helps people and small businesses put their money to work by automating to make saving simpler, optimizing to make investing smarter, and building innovative technology backed by financial experts. So be invested in yourself. Be invested in your business. Be invested in better with Betterment at Betterment.com. Investing involves risk. Performance not guaranteed. This message comes from Focus Features. Don't miss Focus Features Anemone, starring 3-time Academy Award winner Daniel Day-Lewis in his long-awaited return to the big screen. It's the most anticipated performance of the year. Anemone tells the story of 2 brothers wrestling with their past and the one secret that has kept them apart for decades. Featuring Daniel Day-Lewis, Sean Bean, and Samantha Morton. Anemone, directed by Ronan Day-Lewis. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent. Only in theaters October 3rd.
This message comes from Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use. Meet Monday Sidekick, your AI-powered work BFF that handles everything. Daily briefing? Done. Project owners? Assigned. Risk analysis? Ready when you are. Monday Sidekick understands your business, your workflow, even your passive-aggressive tone before lunch. Just say what you need and consider it done. Monday Sidekick, AI you'll love to use. Start your free trial at Monday.com.
I don't know. What is the point of these LLMs? Like, if they're not something that you can totally rely on, right? And they're kind of still in their early stages, I guess, of actual utility for the everyday person. What is the point? And what do you think we want from them?
The point's different for, depending on your perspective, but and the goals are also different depending on your industry and who you are. But I think they were created as a way to accelerate innovation, to create efficiencies, to advance human learning, to try to get towards AGI, artificial general intelligence, where machines can be just as capable or more capable than the human brain, which just can speed up math and science advances in this way that will be absolutely head-spinning and have incredible implications.
That feels very exciting to me.
Yeah, and have incredible implications for health and for science and for medicine. And that's the sort of optimistic, bullish take on them. I mean, I guess the negative view is that they are kind of vaporware. I mean, there is this school of thought that these LLMs are not doing anything that exciting, right? That they're basically fancy autocomplete, that the number of jobs that they're actually replacing has been greatly exaggerated, and that what are they good for except giving us a quick answer before we go to the grocery store? It's not exactly going to create genetic breakthroughs in a lab. That's the sort of negative take, that it's all these AI boosters in Silicon Valley getting lots of VC money and saying AI is the future when it's not doing that much. I think the truth's somewhere in the middle. But there are these two camps definitely duking it out right now in terms of like, how significant is this thing we're calling AI? Do we really need it? What's its utility? Would we be fine without it? Like what you're raising, Brittany, these are all very legitimate questions, right?
Bearing all of this in mind, is AI a tool for its users or its creators?
Both. If you're asking kind of where is this all heading? Where is this all going? I think what a lot of people are realizing is the improvements at this point are going to be incremental for a while. The big breakthroughs have already happened, and every new release of ChatGPT, that they're starting to become more and more underwhelming. It gets improvements like around the edges, but it's not breathtaking. But the next thing, I mean, everyone's talking about agents. Agential AI is what they say. Agents is the new thing where you'll just be talking to Siri and be like, hey, Siri, grab me an Uber, give me some DoorDash, call Brittany and cancel my next 3 appointments, thanks. And it will just do it all for you.
Now, I'm not going to lie. I would love that. I would love that. My life would get a lot easier.
If everyone just had a personal assistant in their pocket and could speak out loud and have all of these real world tasks completed, I think that's where things are going.
Interesting. So, okay, I keep thinking about like how or even if humans and AI technology are meant to work together on every task, or if AI is meant to replace certain tasks. Like according to a recent study published in the medical journal Lancet, endoscopists who used AI assistance tools during colonoscopies became 20% worse at spotting abnormalities when they later performed endoscopies without these AI tools. And the doctor who conducted the study suspected that this was in part, at least, because, these doctors were relying too much on AI. So it's like they have this deep, deep medical training that takes years, right, to acquire. And then, once they have this tool, they kind of formed a pretty quick over-reliance on it. But then conversely, I also saw this article in NBC News that was talking about like freelance writers and engineers and designers being hired to basically like clean up shoddy AI like design, like logos, copywriting, coding. Sometimes it feels like there's this push to integrate AI into our workflows without considering if it's actually helpful in those specific use cases to begin with, or even if it's ready to take on those tasks yet.
No, you're seeing that a ton across all industries, right? I think boardroom executives are asking departments, what are your AI goals? What are your AI initiatives? How are you integrating AI? Shareholders want to know the same because they see it. This is the only way to stay competitive. And I think there's a fear among corner office types that if you look the other way, that you're going to be lapped by the AI fueled competition. But you're right. A lot of industries are finding when you try to incorporate AI, it's clunky. Its results are not that great. And oftentimes it's not creating efficiencies or making better work. It's just creating a headache. I'm not saying it's always going to be that way, but that's the way it's kind of playing out now. There are huge exceptions to that, but for the most part, the whole world of manual labor. Tell me how AI is going to improve your life if you're a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant. If you work in a factory.
Yeah. It can't replace all jobs.
No, you can't. You just can't replace all jobs. I mean, for office workers, there's efficiencies to be had, but for large swaths of the economy, not so much.
I want to go back to a point you were discussing earlier about sort of like how people might weigh whether or not to engage with AI or try to fold it into their life. There are people in my life who are like, I've never even opened it. I don't want to. And then there are people in my life who are like trying to like figure out how to train their ChatGPT like robot to like, I don't even know, like read books for them. I've seen a lot of people kind of approach it in different ways. And because there's so many different applications, I think it's very individual. I mean, of course, everybody has to do that calculus for themselves. I wonder, how can we go about that?
I mean, you can find lots and lots of articles and literature about that and make your own assessment as to whether you think it is ethical or right for you to use. But in some cases, there's no choice. If you Google and you get an AI overview, it's hard to opt out of that. Arguably, like it's impossible to log out of that, right? So sometimes, even if we want to be these like refusenicks and to be like resisting AI, it's going to be forced on us. So, no matter what you decide, every app you use is increasingly using it. Our phones are increasingly using it. The web is increasingly using it. I mean, I just did a story recently, Brittany, about states that are passing laws to regulate how AI is being used in facial recognition technology to scan our irises and retinas and the geometry of our face to create databases of biometric data. That's another segment. But again, there's lots of ways AI can be used in these creepy surveillance ways that it's already happening. And even if it's happening unwittingly every time we're using our phones or surfing the web, this is probably happening. So this is the reality we're in.
This makes me think of one more thing. President Trump has made it very clear what his major concern, right, with AI having some sort of ideological bent or having some sort of like political or ideological application that he doesn't like. But I'm wondering from your perspective, as somebody who has been digging deep into this stuff for like years at this point, what do you think is actually what we should be paying attention to and what we should be looking at in terms of where AI and politics could intersect in perhaps a dangerous way?
You know, if you look at the Biden administration had a very different focus on societal harms, and there were task forces and parts of the federal government that were studying how could this perpetuate housing discrimination, how could this worsen discrimination for beat cops who are potentially using AI-powered technologies. I think that should be part of whatever the Trump administration does too. Not that Biden had it perfectly right, but I think some kind of balance between how could we support innovation while also thinking about how can we safeguard against the worst harms in society before this really gets integrated into credit reports, housing decisions, employment decisions. We ought to be thinking about that because soon it might be a machine, not a human, making choices over where we live, where we work, and what we do every day.
Well, Bobby, I really appreciate you coming on and going through these stressful questions with me. I really appreciate it.
It was stressful, but it's also exciting and interesting, and I can't wait to come back to update you because this stuff is really important.
That was NPR correspondent Bobby Allen and staff writer for The Argument, Kelsey Piper. And I'm going to put on my influencer hat for a second and ask you to please subscribe to this show on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you're listening. Click follow so you know the latest in culture while it's still hot. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Alexis Williams.
This episode was edited by
Nina Patak.
Engineering support came from
Ted Mebane.
Our supervising producer is
Barton Girdwood.
Our executive producer is
Verilyn Williams.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, that's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
Support for NPR and the following message come from Boll & Branch. Turn your bed into a sanctuary this fall with their buttery, breathable bedding. Enjoy 15% off your first set of sheets at BOLLandbranch.com with code NPR. Exclusions apply. Support for NPR and the following message come from IXL Learning. IXL Learning uses advanced algorithms to give the right help to each kid no matter the age or personality. Get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when you sign up today at IXL.com/NPR. Support for NPR and the following message come from Boll & Branch. Turn your bed into a sanctuary this fall with their buttery, breathable bedding. Enjoy 15% off your first set of sheets at BOLLandbranch.com with code NPR. Exclusions apply.